Welcome to Empower Network TV. This is going to be called, or this is called, Anointed and Appointed Micro Summit. I'm excited to see where this one goes, where we go, and what we talk about, or what you guys talk about. So first of all, welcome here. Let's do some welcomes. Thank you so much for being here, Richard and Nancy and Paul and Tamara, also known as Whiskey. Tamara, did you bring your crow? Is your crow in the cage with you?
No, it's back at the campsite. I'm actually doing this and camping at the same time. So many pots, many spoons.
I love it. So why don't we do intros? Why don't you go first, Tamara? Why don't you just tell everyone whatever you want to say, who you are, why you would want to even be on an anointed and appointed micro summit?
Wow, that's loaded. I'm Whiskey, aka Tamara, or whichever way you want to flip it. I am a trauma recovery coach. I run a support group for women to help them break their patterns of narcissistic and domestic abuse. I run a travel blog from the road because 5 months ago, I actually left my own marriage and I live full time on a Harley now. Turned all that into a travel blog and a YouTube channel. And I got ordained last month. So I'm actually Minister Whiskey on a Harley with a crow. Can't make it up. This is where the universe took my life in the last 5 months, and I'm really along for the ride. So, hey, everybody.
Is there any other place you'd rather be than along for the ride you're supposed to be on?
Absolutely not. It's been pretty amazing. And there's no bar set and there's nothing to compare to. So it's a kind of freedom most people will never see.
Well, we're thrilled you're here, Tamara. Thanks for being here. Thanks for introducing yourself. Okay, Nancy, can you please introduce yourself? Who are you and what are you up to in the world? And why do you want to be on this micro summit?
Well, I'm Nancy Weekly. I am an agile coach, a transformational coach. I am also a Joe Dispenza authorized healing group healer, and I teach breath work. So I've got a little bit of diverse background. I'm actively looking to go back into the corporate world. The reason that I kind of joined this is I just want to have deeper, more meaningful conversations and really go into, topics that I think I've avoided previously in the past. So I'm really looking forward to exploring this one. I'm thinking we're going to get some really diverse conversation here. So that's kind of why I joined. I'm in it for the deep conversation.
Well, we are thrilled you're here, Nancy. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks for being here. Paul, let's go to you again next, sir. This is your now second time you've been on one of these.
Yes.
So welcome back. And why would you want to be on an anointed and appointed, whatever that means to you, micro summit?
Well, first of all, I thought that the words were, after we talked about hope and direction last hour, I thought, wow, what a shift in the ideas or concepts of anointed and appointed. I'm like Nancy and Whiskey. This is going to be really intriguing and fun to talk about. I think we can dive deep on some of this. I'm a spiritual consultant, helping people with understanding and empowering their relationships, especially from the spiritual intuitive point of view. Got inspired to do that after having a career with spiritual education for decades, to do it more from the relationship side, because how do you make your intuitions work with a cranky child? How do you make them work with a disruptive coworker? How can you maintain that inner peace out there in the world with all the relationships that you're engaged with? And it's become a generational experience. Even our granddaughters are helping us facilitate workshops and classes and so on. So just a real kick. I want to thank Richard for inviting me to the Empower Network TV and the Academy. Kudos, Richard. This has been a great experience. And thank you, Amos, also.
Oh, we're thrilled you're here, Paul. And yes, Richard, thank you for bringing Paul. I had a lot of fun with him so far. So, Richard, who are you and why would you want to show up to this micro summit, sir?
Well, I showed up because you invited me. And I figured with the title, this could go anywhere, and that's where I like to go. I like to, when it's not scripted and I have no idea what the heck we're going to talk about, that's when I have the most fun. I live in Richmond, Virginia right now. I am a Wayshowers College certified spiritual consultant and course facilitator. I've been in the Empower Network because it's given me an opportunity to share with like-minded people. And that's a need. That's not a want. I need to outflow with people who stimulate me. And this group does. So let's roll.
Thrilled you're here. All right, we're going to jump right into it. Thanks, Richard. Okay, whiskey. What is the word? Let's just start with anointed and appointed. What the hell? And I'm going to say what the hell because I wanted to just open it right up. What the hell does it mean to you to be anointed and appointed?
You know, I've actually been thinking about this really tough the last couple of days because I knew that was actually going to come up, right? To me, I think it's owning your true purpose and first of all, finding it, not just owning it, but finding your true purpose and taking ownership in that and authenticity in that and going where your intuition guides you to do and to be. And I was already doing it. And then once I got on the road now, it just like, it's like a homing beacon. Like literally, I couldn't turn some of this stuff off or not do some of this stuff. And things in your life won't work until you're on the right track. And I say your life, my life. Like things don't flow if I'm not going the right way. And then the second I find that connection, it just takes off. Like it's even places to stay. It's crazy how it's finding that it's literally getting tuned in and in key with source. Does that make sense?
Well, it doesn't need to make sense to me. I just want to hear what you guys all have to say because I don't really care where this goes as long as you guys lead it.
Yeah, my focus is just, I mean, I think that's the coach thing. I want to make sure that people understand how I'm saying it is yeah.
I think you are clear and I appreciate
Okay.
that. We're going to go girl, boy, girl, boy. So Paul, let's go to you next, sir. What does anointed appointed represent to you?
Yeah, as soon as you talked to me about being on this, I started thinking about that, Amos. Anointed to me it's actually a very deep feeling for me. Traditionally, you think of anointing, being baptized, as a child, or in different circles, you anoint someone's third eye with the oils or things like that. So that really, for me, is like an energy setting. You're establishing that this person is a powerful person. They're connected to the bigger universe, and again, traditionally God or whatever that is. So it really sets that energy. And when I think about setting energy, I anoint myself every morning. And every time I get up in the morning and I connect to my meditation, I connect to my guidance and my angels, and connect to that spirit part of me, I'm anointing myself with the day. I'm setting myself forward to move in a progressive, directed, hopeful kind of way, like we talked about last time. Appointed for me is a choice. It's a choice of my self leadership. It's a sense of I take opportunity and responsibility to move forward in being of service. For example, like we're all doing with my business, with my coaching and consulting work. So that sense of appointment is that I have set my goals, I've established things, and I'm moving forward with all that. One of the first things that came to me uh, when when you mentioned that was a good friend of mine. He's passed on years ago, but he was a doctor. He was a dentist in Fort Dodge, Iowa. He would get up in the morning, and before he even went to the bathroom or anything, he would go in front of the mirror. And I'm going to tame this down a little bit. He would use different language. He would look in the mirror and he would go, "John, you're a doggone good-looking son of a gun." And he would just set his energy. This is the way I'm going to be today. So he not only was anointing himself with that enthusiasm, he was also setting himself up and appointed that he's going to go out there and he's going to do his work with his patients and so forth. So I think that's what comes to my mind first with anointed and appointed.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for that picture too. I felt a little bit of shivers go up and down when he's talked about doing that. Nancy, when you think of anointed and appointed, now you're going through, as you open up with like a life shift, because you've had trainings, you've had things that you've stepped into, and yet and then maybe you're going back to the corporate world. So what does this mean to you, anointed and appointed?
Well, for me, traditionally, it's always been something outside of myself. Like anointed to me always meant that I had to get permission from the church, or there was, this institution outside of me. The same thing with appointed, that was getting direction from someone or something outside of me. And what it means for me today is really, it's much more internal. It's taking that permission to lead my own life, to make my own choices, to come out and speak about what it is I want to talk about, and not waiting. And I see this so many with my coaching clients and stuff, is we're so much waiting for somebody else to give it to us, and learning how to internally get it from ourselves. And I think somebody spoke about that intuition. A lot of times we get that calling, and we're too afraid to take that step because we're afraid what it's going to look like externally, and not really valuing, what it can do for us internally. So that's kind of I'm going through that shift, and I'm seeing a lot of other people that I contact with doing that same thing. And for me in the corporate world, that's just like, I'm continually like trying to seek the next certification to feel like I am qualified, for these positions and things that I'm trying to get. It's all shifting from that external to understanding that I am already enough, and I am already ready to take on what I'm being called to do.
Wow, external permission. We're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. Thank you, Nancy. Richard, anointed and appointed, sir.
To me, it's making sure that I anoint myself with a level 10 life every minute of every day. It's monitoring where I'm putting, what am I doing with my life, and what am I getting out of it? And making sure that that feels right, that feels good, that I'm, like I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, I ask myself a lot of times a day, where am I? And if I'm not at a 10, I need to relax and tune in and get back into being one with who and what I really am, and stop letting what's going on in the outer world, or what I think about an opportunity that's in front of me, affect how much in joy I am. And it becomes a way of life, is what it really is. It's like maintaining that love of life and childlike enthusiasm from the time I hit the floor to the time I go to bed at night. And that it's a discipline. To me, that's what it is. Like at my age, I get up in the morning and I just, get the old man energy out of here, because I'm a little stiffer. I'm a little slower. My balance isn't as great as it used to be. And I have to look, none of that is me. None of that is me. So let's move on out, go play with someone who likes to play your games, and leave me alone, because I've got things to do and people to see.
Boom. Okay, that was awesome. Round 2, Tamara, whiskey. I'm curious, what things externally have you gone after to get anointed and appointed, to prove to yourself, only to in the end realize that it's got to come from within you? So what are those things you've latched onto, and what's your process of learning to not trust in them, but to trust in something that's kind of already in you?
That's actually a hilarious question based on what's happening in my life. I had actually been called even into ministry like 5 years ago, and I had no idea why. I didn't understand what was going on. And obviously things have progressed since then. But like I was, collecting different books, and I have like for energy work, I had different crystals. And for some reason I kept finding all this Native American things. So I had all these artifacts and stuff in my house. And as life is what happens when you're making plans, right? So all this happens. For those of you that don't know, I ghosted my marriage 5 months ago and I packed what I could on my Harley and I left, right? Since then, my ex-husband has literally paid somebody to get rid of all of my belongings. So all those things that I had connected myself to, that these are me and this is what I need in my life to have this force or this flow or this learning or any of those things, they're literally gone. So I literally had to learn that it's in me. Everything that I need is literally packed inside me on that bike with me, rolling around in my head, going down the highway. And I don't need any of those things or those attachments or any of those things to keep me going. And it's kind of every day I go through life to ask, and he said, like it, Richard said, like in the childlike way, right? All kids do is learn. They're sponges and they soak everything else up and learn. And every single day in my brain is, what do I learn from this? Where's the lesson today? Where's this? Where is that? And those are all things that are external that I have to filter internally. So I don't attach to anything anymore, except the fact that I get to process and filter everything.
Wow, that was really profound. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you.
Paul, and Tamara, just because of surrounding noise, I will be muting you out here, but just
I
so you
was
know.
too. It's fine.
Paul, when you strip everything off yourself, yeah, whatever worldly accolades, applauses, where is this power originating from? Where is the permission that Nancy talked about too coming from? Where do you get it from? The permission to anoint yourself, to appoint yourself, to step fully, as you said, that guy in the mirror, to step and claim it. Where's it come from?
I want to preface that with what external things have hit me, and because that'll lead to what we're talking about, your question. As I reflect on that, one of the top things that has been an external influence is just the energy of outer authority. Nancy alluded to it with the outer, but it's that someone else knows more than I do. Someone else has more power than I have. Someone else is older than I am. Must have more experience than I do. And that was a real challenge for me growing up. As I said in the last time, my father passed on when I was 16. And I was just becoming that man. You're just beginning to touch, what it was like to be a man. And then here's the authority figure in my life, although he was a gentle authority figure, gave me rope to climb and so on. There was still that outerness there. And very quickly, as I got involved into with my mother's spiritual searching, we found an organization called the Inner Peace Movement, and the founder of that was a very powerful, strong, amazing guy. He was a beautiful guy, but he became my authority figure. I always looked to him for some kind of answer or verification or validation. And it took me a long time to grow up and grow out of that, Amos, to really see myself as my own best inner authority. And so it's that sense of self acceptance and the sense of, I love Shelley in one of the Academy, she said something about being having radical confidence. It wasn't just about faith, it was radical confidence. So that self acceptance and that sense of supreme confidence inside that I do have my own answers, that no matter what, and I learned this, no matter how many times I ask somebody else for their opinion about something, I usually end up doing what it is that I think I need to do anyway. No matter what anybody else says, I'm going to end up following what my instincts are. And to Tamara's point, my two granddaughters, they're just like that. They follow what they feel they want to do, sometimes to the chagrin of their parents. And so I think it comes from that soul part inside, that intelligent life force that we all are, Amos. There's this innateness that we know that inside what's in our best interest. We know that we need to be doing this or that. It comes from a sense of calmness. It comes from a sense of enthusiasm, like Richard was saying, that I just am impelled to move in this direction. And the more that happens, and this is where I think as coaches, we have such a strong ability to be assistants, not only to each other, but to people. The more I can show people something real simple that they did that represents them being in charge of themselves, they can build on that. The success will breed success. There's an old saying, small leaks sink big ships. Well, small screws build big ships. So it's helping that success inside to show itself. And I think that's what I breathe in. I do, as Tamara said, I try and look at what did I learn and grow in today? What was good about today? What fit my purpose in my life today? And if I breathe that and recognize that, that begets more of it. It builds more of it. And that's what drives me.
Wow. Thank you, Paul. Nancy, just where are you at right now? Just lay it on us, please.
Wow, I think that all of this is kind of ringing true. I thought we were going to have such huge, diverse conversation here, but I think there's such a common theme coming too. I mean, for me, I'm still so much in the practicing stage, and it's about trust for me. It's that inner trust that I am doing the right next step, or that I don't want to be in, going down the wrong path. And what I'm learning is that there is no wrong path. That you're exactly where you're trusting that is the not listening to that external world when it does tell you, when it makes you feel like you're not in the right place, not doing the right thing. That's where we have to anoint ourselves with that level of trust that our own internal guidance is what is right exactly for us at that given moment, regardless what it looks like. If it doesn't look like somebody else's path, if it doesn't look like it's going to be the right thing. And I'm kind of like jealous of Richard and these others that have this huge connection to their higher self. I mean, that's what I'm seeking right now. That's what I'm learning to trust. And it's like I said, it's a practice. I have to stop myself every day and not let myself get caught up into the external, what I'm seeing externally, into what I'm feeling internally, and getting that flow. I think that's where the flow comes from, or the flow that I'm looking for. I'd always looked at, the path of following great leaders and all of that, but still that was so external. It may not have been the right path for me. So now it's trusting myself that what's presented to me, and even if I take something that I think is a wrong path, trusting that that is putting me in the right place to connect with the right people or to see the right next step for me. And not, there's something about time here too, is I always feel like time is running out. Like I'm too old to do this, and I'm trying to get to this place where time doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. If it takes me longer to make a decision or to get that level of confidence to, flow into what I need to, that's okay too.
Oh, good thoughts. Thanks for your vulnerability too, Nancy. It's coming home to that the GPS was somehow always built into you. That internal GPS. Thank you for sharing. Richard, where do you want to take it?
First thing, Nancy, if you want to get a better connection with your guidance, get in touch with me.
Yeah.
I can help you with that very quickly.
Yeah.
What I'm picking up is like free flowing. It's having this is my planet, period. This is my planet. All of you are actors in a play that I came here to learn. And I'm pretty sure that's true for me. So it's probably true for you. I had a vision one time I can't even describe that vision, but it was like all of us are looking in at life from our own perspective. And if I rush my timing, if I don't respect that, if I move, I gotta move, that is not clear. That's not a clear point to move from. I have to learn to give myself the authority to do things when I feel it's the right time to do them, no matter what you think, no matter what you feel. And I've found that making mistakes is where the growth is in life. I don't learn anything by doing the things I do well. I learn from doing things I don't do very well. And I learn by doing things I don't do very well over and over until I do them well. And if I'm of the mindset that I need to give up, I need to make sure that's my mindset, that, okay, I have tried this so many times, it hasn't worked for me. I think I'm going to let this go and not feel like I'm under pressure to do it. I was a lifeguard when I was a younger man, very young. And I remember one day these kids came to the pool, and I was there early in the morning, of course, vacuuming and stuff. There were 3 boys, and they were sitting there wondering if the water was cold. You know, I bet it's cold. No, I don't think it's cold today. Yeah, I bet it's cold. And this one kid insisted that this water isn't cold. Well, I knew it was cold. It was cold as heck. I'd run water into the pool all night, and it'd been a cool night. So he jumped in, and then he popped up and he said, "The water's great. Y'all come on in." And I learned from him that first, I can wade into water. And if it's not comfortable, I can always turn around and come out. And that's the way I see mistakes in life, or taking a direction. If I decide I want to do something, but I'm not really sure if this is right, but I feel like I need to experience it. I don't have to do like that kid and jump in head first and then invite all my friends to make the same error I did. That's just pride. You know, this is too cold. Let me out. I can walk away from anything because it's my planet. It's my life. It's my experience. I'm the only one experiencing me. I'm the only one responsible for what I'm going to do. I've anointed myself with that. You have no power over me. Only I have power over me. I have power over what thoughts I listen to. I have power over how I feel. I have power over what I do. And until I totally embrace that and realize that whether you like it or not, this is what I feel like I need to do, and I'm going to do it. And what you think is none of my business. Until that becomes part of my feelings, I'm not really free. I'm still copying someone from somewhere at some time, thinking that that will work for me when my feelings are telling me that isn't working for you, Richard. You know, that's what repent meant. Change your mind. That's all it was. It got turned into something else, but it just meant change what you're doing. Repent. Quit doing that dumb stuff.
Come back to a higher way of viewing yourself. I love what you said, Richard. Whiskey, when you are listening, you know, what Richard's talking about, it's like this internal listening. The GPS has already been stuck in you, and it's like coming home to the fact, realizing, what the hell was I doing looking outside? It's always inside. How do you know you're hearing the right voices? How do you know you're hearing, your eyes are on the right prize? Because you're taking actions now, and you're making decisions in life that are going to have cause and effect.
Actually, and I kind of alluded to it earlier too, is if I'm not on the right path, struggle gets much harder. Like you're constantly bumping up against something, and either something doesn't feel right, something's not going right. There's an inner compass that says, well, yeah, that's it. No, that's not it. You know, and I tell ladies all the time in my support group, you know, the universe is going to hit you over the head harder and harder until you figure it out, until you learn that lesson. You know, so a lot of times we're like, oh, this doesn't work. Let me try it again a different way. And it's like, maybe we're not even supposed to be going that direction. So learning those things and how to And that's a pride thing too, right? That the ego of control that we want this to happen, so it's got to happen because we said it's going to happen. That's one of those things that we get hung up on. And then to Richard's point too, he and you mentioned action also, I'm glad. One thing that I've noticed recently, because we're talking about doing and action and being on the right path, right? I just recently had to learn that rest is an action. So rest is an action, stopping and slowing down and maybe doing absolutely nothing so that that filter and that voice and that clarity can come through. When we're so focused on going one place, we have a habit of shutting everything off and getting, what is that called? Blinders, putting the blinders on. We quit looking in our peripheral to see what else might be there. So sometimes we just have to rest and slow down and take stock. And a lot of times when I do that, things open right up. I don't know if that answered the actual question, but that was what was there.
That was perfect. And in spirit to what you just said, I'm not going to say anything. Paul, here's the mic.
Oh, lots of stimulating thoughts here. As Richard was talking, I know we've talked many times that there are no mistakes, only stepping stones. So if I just see myself as that evolving person, I'm always going to come out on the other end stronger, more significant. It reminded me of being a father. My wife Susan and I have 5 children. The first 4 were girls, then we figured out and had the boy. And those girls taught me more about life than any book or anything that I could ever imagine. The first one, I had no idea what to do with my spouse's pregnancy. We got into the room for the delivery, and I was a deer in headlights. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. Here's my wife, yelling and contractions and yada yada. The nurse felt really sorry for me. She said, "Mr. Kellogg," she said, "I want you to take this bowl of ice chips, and every time your wife needs some ice chips, you put them in a spoon like this, and you go like this towards her mouth. She'll open her mouth, and you pour the chips into her mouth." She literally had to explain to me how to give my wife ice chips out of a spoon. And I got so chagrined because this one time when I said, "Susan, you want some ice chips?" and she screamed at me, "No," I just felt like an utter humiliated failure that my job, being an ice chips guy, was now not being accepted. But what's amazing was being at the birth of each of those children, I got better at it. And I got better at giving ice chips. I got better at coaching her on he hoo and ha ha ha, and all the breathing things that you're supposed to do. I even trained my oldest now daughter how to do that. And with the third child, I had to leave to go. We were in a birthing room. I had to leave to go um, to the restroom. I came back and here's Sarah. She's 6 years old. She's straddling Susan. She's going, "Mom, he hoo, he hoo. Come on, Mom, he hoo." I mean, I had done such a great job now that I was training other people how to do what it is that I do. And so that appointed anointed thing that we first started out with, to me, a piece of this conversation is passing things on, helping others to bring their genius out, to open up a little bit. Again, Empower has that opportunity. We're all talking about that right now. And so that gives me a tremendous amount of fulfillment, is to appoint myself to be a way shower. Richard talked about the Way Showers College. It's named that because it's show the way. Again, last year we talked about being the guru and not being the guru, help other people find their own answers. So it's one of the great fulfilling things that I can do, is to help people help people to connect with that inner guidance. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, the whiskey stimulated me, is I found out in the work that we do with relationships, discernment becomes a huge factor in working with the clearness of my intuitions, with my ESP or my psychicness. That discernment of what is me and what is not me is a very powerful thing to be masterful of, because so we're all, everybody has psychicness. We're all psychic. We all have hunches. We all have intuitions and feelings. There's nothing mystical about that. We need to demystify that whole metaphysical approach to things. We all have a natural sensitivity, in my opinion. And so we can constantly be buffeted by that. Our energies are interacting with each other right now. Our auras are connecting, right? So what is me and what is not me? People can be thinking, I found out that people can be thinking about me from 1,000 miles away, and I can pick that up and start reacting and, moving nervously, and it's not even me to begin with. So to begin to discern that really empowers me and anoints me with the clearness of who I am and what I'm about. And in the service vibration, we're all very prone to that because we have people thinking about us all the time. So how can I maintain that sense of myself? And that goes back to setting my intentions inside, being clear about what it is that I have gotten out of my day, what have I learned, what do I want to do differently, what was fulfilling to me about that day. That establishes my energy. And then I can filter things out better. It's people that aren't taking care of themselves that are most susceptible to outer influences because they just become like a cork on the waves, getting buffeted around rather than having a rudder and a direction and an inner self leadership, an inner GPS, if you will, like you said, Amos. That's one of my mantras, having an inner GPS. So those are a couple of things that stand out to me as we're talking here. We've got the power to keep making the changes and keeping in charge of ourselves. It's just a decision to do that.
Thank you, Paul. Nancy, how are you practicing this decision then? Because you just candidly were speaking about, you want more of it. You want to tune more into it. What is that looking like?
Well, when I thought of this topic, the vision that came to me was like how a knight is knighted, anointed and appointed by the king. And one of the things when I first looked at that story, it was like, oh, well, you can't become a knight until, the king appoints you a knight. But when I looked back again from a slightly different view, if you looked at the whole story, he was not appointing the court jester. He was not appointing the guys that were falling off their horse or that were drinking in the background. So it was something about those knights that took it upon themselves to already take that action and become that knight before they were appointed. And when I had that realization, it is you have that power within you to embody whatever that title is you're looking for, and just call yourself that. Just start taking that action and do the traits of whatever it is you're looking for somebody else to give you permission to do. Give yourself that permission. Jump in and start doing it. And that's one of the things I love about this community is I think you've opened that up for everybody. It's like you can come in, you're getting a mic, come in and be who you want to be. Go ahead and anoint yourself as an expert in, whatever it is. Even though we're all practicing, you're still going to be adding value and contributing to whatever it is you're looking to do. And it's just, I can't say enough. It's like appoint yourself. Appoint yourself, knight yourself, start doing it. And the second that you do get into it, and as you practice, it's all practice. We're all here to continually practice. And the more you do it and the more that you begin to master that, then I do believe the external world will finally recognize it. But don't put the value on the external world recognizing it. Recognize it in yourself and start embodying those behaviors and those traits, and you will become it. It's inevitable, it's innate. You go for that internal guidance and start doing it, and you will eventually, become whatever it is you're choosing to.
Thank you, Nancy. That was brilliant. I was watching Richard. He sat up, started smiling, shaking his head. Richard, where are you at with that?
Richard, you're on mute, I think.
That's why I hadn't said anything yet. I don't want to waste energy.
Mhm.
I was intrigued with that original somewhere when we started this was, how do I know I'm listening to the right voices? And I know by how it feels, how I feel. I've got to keep in mind that I have an amazing amount of freedom here. I have the freedom to suffer. I have the freedom not to suffer. I have the freedom to think any way I want to think. And like yesterday, a person came to my house that I don't really get along with very well. And I'm aware of this. I am really aware of this. So instead of just staying relaxed with it yesterday, I kind of like, I'm not going to let this person crank me up. Well, where is my energy when I said that? What state of consciousness am I the moment I said that? I am in a protective mode. I've called out the spiritual army and navy when there's no war even going on. So I am at a state of consciousness where every other soul in the universe at that state of consciousness is. And I'm susceptible to their suggestions because of where I am. Whereas if I just take a deep breath and relax and become more childlike, then I suddenly move my state of consciousness to a level where all the energy is a state of consciousness of childlikeness. I become one with that. So as self-mastery is keeping myself at that area. And to me, it's a challenge. It's not a problem when I'm sitting here by myself, and everything's fine, but it becomes a challenge when people push my buttons. And thank you so much for doing that, because I don't even know I have those buttons if you don't push them. You're giving me an opportunity to learn where I'm not really one with all things. So I think to that, what voices am I listening to is what energy am I radiating, because I'm with that. And Whiskey brought up something too, that it's okay to rest. Well, have you ever been to the beach and just watched the waves? All the laws of the universe are playing out right in front of me when I'm sitting on the beach watching the waves. I've got the gravity that makes the wave fall, the law of attraction. But I've also got the other law that a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to. Is the universe is kind of run by attraction and motion. And motion has two aspects, propulsory and rotary. So when I set a goal and I'm accomplishing something, I'm going through my day, I'm in propulsory. I'm that wave that's coming into the beach. And I'm getting things done, I'm building momentum, but at some point, that wave crashes. And then it kind of relaxes. And that's the rotary. So I need to both accomplish and regroup. I need to give myself time to take a look at, okay, here have been my experiences this morning, this afternoon, today, the last hour with that person I just got tense with, and then go, okay, how could I do that better? How could I work and become more one with all things in that situation? And that to me is something I don't see being taught in a lot of places. That's why, a friend of mine told me, said, you're really the coach's coach. You need to be coaching more coaches. And I kind of accept that because I see where I have a lot of holes in my training. So that makes it really easy for me to see where other people may have some holes that are limiting them. And it gives me an opportunity for them to show me the holes where I'm limiting me. But yeah, the right voices come. Am I in the right energy? Am I a master of my energy? What wavelength am I? Where am I right now in the universe? Am I with the ones, the twos, the threes, the fives, the eights, or am I with the tens? Because if I'm with the tens, nearly anything that comes to me is good. Any idea, anything. If I'm with the fives and the fours, I've got to be very alert. And that's living life the hard way, not the easy way.
Wow, thank you, Richard. Whiskey, you're practically living what Richard's talking about right now. And it's easy to judge the fact that, good or bad, right? Because there's all these judgments and perceptions based on, but how are you learning to integrate becoming one with all things so that you stay in a place of peace and stay in this place where you're able to anoint and appoint yourself daily? How are you practically carrying this out with what you're doing on the road with a bloody crow on the back of your Harley, going to hippie camps? Like,
Uh, long before this happened, and actually it's what it was my catalyst for everything, is to learn to let go of other people's judgments, right? Like it's none of my business what somebody else thinks of me. I honestly don't care. And I only care half of what I think about me, because half the time that's wrong, right? It's whatever that the old story might have been, or that perception that I might need to work on. A lot of times the things that we think about ourselves aren't accurate either, right? So it's just being in that know of, I don't know everything, and that getting out the ego out of the way and not trying to control everything. Like, I end up in different people's homes and on couches and at campgrounds, and I meet all these different people and have all these different experiences that I literally have no plan for, right? It's whatever comes to me, and I take that it fully in stride, and go on with it. And I don't judge any of it as it's good or bad, or even negative or positive. It's all something that's coming at me. It's literally, I was reading, I'm reading the same book you're reading right now. And all energy is neutral, correct? The energy is neutral until we assign something to it, or some other construct assigns that to it also. So for the most part, as long as we just literally flow and see what we can pull out of things instead of judging things first, and same goes for people judging you, then it makes it so much easier. And I say that like it's an easy thing to do. It's really not. It takes a lot of practice to override that conditioning we have to begin with, right? And your need for safety wants to judge everything. But I've let go of a lot of that. It's been a lot more crazy and peaceful all at the same time. It's hard. I'm at the point there's no words for some things, if that makes sense either.
sometimes there is no words. Thank you, Whiskey. Paul, what's on your mind, your heart?
Well, I was again thinking about the concept of, knowing that I'm in tune with and one with things. And like I share with you, Amos, one of the signals that I have for that is when I'm making a decision, or when I'm looking at steps or considering things, I get those chills or those goosebumps that just I can even get them in a hot shower. There was a study that these people were doing, what creates goosebumps and why do people I thought I'd volunteer for that. I can get goosebumps on command, and be some kind of unique experimental study because when I'm looking for that direction, or I'm looking for answers, and I go after it and I find it, I'll get those feelings inside. And that's one signal to me that I know the guidance, my guides are really connecting, and I'm a part of that. The other piece of it that's on my mind is that there's no separation from any of this that we're talking about. For me, everything's energy. Richard alluded to the scientific side of all this. Everything's energy in one form or another. You can't create or destroy energy according to science. All you do is change its form. So as a soul, I always have been, I always will be in one form or another. So, and I'm a piece of that energy as an intelligent life force. So it means that I have all the wisdom and energy of that universe or God right inside of me because I'm already a part of it. So I can heal myself. I can read my own past lives. I can, whatever it is, because I'm already a piece of it to begin with. So that oneness is kind of, for me, an acknowledgement that, I am it. I have it. Not only is this my planet, this is my universe, like Richard was saying. This is my playpen. I can build my spiritual real estate just by having my daily experiences in life and to trust that. And I think as I've gotten older, um, I've started to find this sense of inner peace about everything, no matter what's going on. But just I've had many people that have passed on in my life. My sister passed on a few years ago from a brain aneurysm. It was a cathartic experience for all of us, but it was also an amazing spiritual experience because I knew what she believed in, life after death and so on. We had a son that passed on early. Just recently, a relative, husband passed on from pancreatic cancer, and so looking at it, that there's this peacefulness, that there is no death in some way, that there's nothing to fear because it's just a transformation into something bigger of that oneness that we are. That helps create that inner peace for me inside, knowing that everything's going to be all right. I watched that movie recently. I don't know if you guys remember 20 years ago. It was Anger Management, and Jack Nicholson's the thing, and everybody's getting cranked up, and he goes, "Goose for a blah." I mean, he said "goose for a blah." It's kind of a funny, sarcastic way. Just take a deep breath, smooth it out, calm it down just a little bit. And the more I practice that, the more that oneness happens. There's an old saying, sales wise, marketing wise, if you light yourself with enthusiasm, people will come from miles around to watch you burn. Remember that one? So if I have that feeling of joy and passion inside, I don't have to worry about abundance. I don't have to worry about what I'm attracting. I'm going to attract the energy that I put out there. It's going to come back to me. So that trust, that self-confidence, that sense of knowing that, as Nancy was saying, that I have chosen to anoint and appoint myself and be that energy that I want to be. I think that's the power of the empower.
Oh, that's profound. Thank you, Paul. Nancy, we're going to go to you and we're going to begin wrapping after you and Richard go. And then, yeah, where are you at?
Well, I just have to say that there's so much of the same message coming through here. And from one of the things that I believe is that the challenges and all we face are really a reflection of something inside of us. So the only level of area that we have control over is how we react to that. And by changing our reaction or non-reaction, or, that is what's going to change and not have those same circumstances present themselves. I believe that we're presented a lesson until we learn it, right? And if you're continuing to see, challenges with your neighbors or your partner or whatever, it's about looking inside and say, how can I react differently? How can I view this, for my own good? Is there a message here that I need to take? And I just feel like, we have that power inside of us, and there's so many things that we don't trust, or that we are allowing others to influence in us not to believe that. And in order to give anything to someone else, you have to possess it yourself. So the only place that you can obtain anything is to give it to yourself first. And I think that is a hard lesson for us to learn, because we see so much in others. We have a lot of comparison. There's a lot of looking outside of us and wanting what other people have, and not realizing that we have that capability to give it to ourselves. And it is taking that first step, that accepting it's okay to be stumbling to get somewhere you want to go. and it's giving us permission. Give yourself permission to stumble a little bit, because the people you're surrounding yourself with, like this group, I feel safe to stumble. I do. And I appreciate that. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be able to do this, because the environments I was putting myself in, or that I was perceiving, I didn't feel safe. If you can, get enough, muster enough confidence in yourself, or just empower yourself enough to take those first few steps, as awkward as they are, you only get better. It only gets easier. And it is being in control of that reaction. Again, I'm going to reiterate this one more time, but the only thing you are in control of is how you react to these circumstances. And if you change that, you will change your life. You will change your life. So
Wow.
give yourself permission. Give yourself permission.
Thank you. This is all therapy for me. So thank you all. Richard, let's go to you before we start our closing remarks.
Okay, what's coming to me is reality is that I am whole and perfect and one with all things, that no one can give me anything and no one can take anything away from me. So the question I need to be mindful of is what am I doing that is keeping me separated from that? That's my question. That's where power is being willing to ask that question and then act on the answer. How am I separating me from the real reality of the fact that I have no problems. I have no fears. I have no lack of anything. So what am I doing that makes me believe otherwise?
Wow. Thank you, Richard. Let's go to closing remarks. Whiskey.
Hi again. I wanted to bring up, I wrote this down earlier. Now I'm going to build on what Richard just said now, and we'll wrap with this, is that I think the difference, the appointed and anointed, I think it puts a higher level of, I won't say expectation, but we set a standard for ourselves when we understand that we are, it's a difference between being a leader and being a ruler, right? Because we understand that we're in charge of ourselves and we're leading by example, and we're being led at the same time, correct? Because we understand those connections and the intuition and the source and the energy, or God, or whatever words you want to put on it. So it's learning to be that leader in that space, and letting other people have that same process and growth that you're going on, right? We're all on an adventure and a journey, right? So, and the anointing and appointing is, I always tell people, you're not blessed unless you're sharing your blessings with somebody else, because it's not a blessing if you hoard it, right? If you're not sharing that and breaking down those things that you've learned, and this is where we come into our coaching space too, right? So if we're not taking in these things in our life and digesting them and putting them back out into the world in a way that we can bless other people with it, that's what we're called to do. That is the anointment, that is our anointing, that is the appointment that we're here to do. And once we key into that, it just kind of takes on a life of its own. It's pretty awesome.
Good thoughts, Whiskey. Good thoughts. Paul,
Thank
let's
you.
go to you for closing remarks.
Well, I'm kind of going back to the very beginning and remembering my dentist friend and his in the mirror statement. And I think I can sum up my closing remarks with a little demonstration. My 6-year-old granddaughter oftentimes will sit in her mom's lap when we're facilitating workshops online and so on. And this one particular, and at the end of every session, we'll do like a 1, 2, 3 go, or 1, 2, 3 success. We'll cut the energy to go on out. And she had shown this little demonstration to her family and to Nan and Papu. And so she's up on her mom's lap and she says, Papu, I want to lead the break technique. And I said, okay, Addison, this is great. Go ahead. So you all need to do this with me because this is my closing remarks. Put your hand over your heart like this. Everybody do this. You got to unmute. Got everybody unmute. So here's my Richard. You got to unmute.
I thought
There.
you said I've got to have everybody on mute.
No, sorry. So this is Addison now leading the break technique. She says, "Okay, everybody, I'm going to count to 3, and when I go 1, 2, 3, everybody do this. 1, 2, 3, hooray!" All right, everybody try it.
Yeah, all right.
1, 2,
2,
3,
3,
hooray!
Hooray!
One more time. 1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
hooray!
I'm in the middle of McDonald's, y'all.
I'm in a Starbucks.
Starbucks
are
is
my
next door.
closing-
For the same cost, I could have breakfast.
Good,
Don't
good.
care
They'll want
what
to know
they
what,
think,
Tamara, they'll want to know
Whiskey.
what you do, and you can now tell them. Those are my closing remarks, Amos.
Hmm.
Amazing, Paul. That was fun. Nancy.
All right. Well, thanks for that energy, Paul, because here we're going. So actually, I'll do a little something too. So I want everybody to close their eyes and take 3 deep breaths. And what I'm leaving you with is that anytime you start to get out of sorts and don't feel that you're in control, if you can come back to the breath and trust yourself to observe where you are, ground yourself, there is nothing externally that you cannot deal with, no matter what is going on. And it's just taking yourself back inside, take those deep breaths, and allow yourself to feel that genuine love come into your heart, and know that you always have that with you, regardless of the situation you're in. And you always have that capability to push that out into your world around you. So you are anointed and appointed at any given time to be who you want to be. As Richard had pointed out earlier, we are in, this is our world. We can play any role we choose in it. So I encourage you all to decide the role you want to play at this given point in your time, and just start doing it and give yourself permission to be who you want to be in the world today.
Beautiful. Powerful. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Richard, closing remarks.
If I'm not having fun, I'm doing something wrong. Because this is one of the greatest playpens in the universe. And to see it any other way, that's a self-imposed limitation. Let that shit go.
Well said. Well said, Richard. Thank you, everyone, for watching today. Those viewers that'll catch it now, catch it on replay, caught it now. Thank you, Richard, for being here. Thank you, Nancy, for being here. Thank you, Paul, for being here. Thank you, Whiskey, for being here. You all are a real hoot and a real treat on a beautiful Sunday.
Thank you, Amos, for being
Thank
here.
you all. This was
See you
great
guys.
fun.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
everybody. Go,
Yeah.
go, Whiskey.
Bye, y'all.